Meet James. He's 66 years old, spent 40 years in middle management, has $680,000 saved, his house is paid off, and by every traditional metric, he's ready to retire. His financial advisor gave him the green light, the retirement calculators say he's good to go. So he retires. 18 months later, James is back at work, not because he ran out of money, but because retirement exposed problems he never saw coming. Matt here, and today we're covering 5 retirement readiness issues that nobody talks about, but that derail retirements just as often as running out of money. If you recognize even one of these in yourself, you might want to pump the brakes. Let's dive in. Sign 1. You've never lived on your projected retirement budget. Here's something nobody tells you. Most people have absolutely no idea what they actually spend money on until they retire, and suddenly every expense steps into the light like it's on a crime show. When you're working, certain expenses are invisible, or at least emotionally justified. You grab lunch out because you're busy. You hire someone to mow the lawn because time is money. You pay for convenience everywhere because you're exhausted, and rationalizing is easier than cooking. You tell yourself, I'll cut back when I retire. Classic. Then you retire. Now you have unlimited time, but the same spending habits, just without the paycheck backing them up. And surprise, new categories appear. You're home more, so utility bills creep up. You finally have time for hobbies, which somehow all cost money. You eat out more because you're enjoying life now, which somehow still involves paying $18 for lunch. Travel and entertainment spike in early retirement because you're finally doing all the things you postponed for 30 years. This is where reality taps you on the shoulder. Here's the test most people fail. Pull up your actual retirement budget, the one where you confidently said, I'll live on $5,200 a month in retirement. Now, while you're still working, try living on exactly that amount for 6 full months. Track every dollar, no rounding, no vibes-based budgeting. What you'll discover is often humbling. Many people realize they're actually spending way more than their projected retirement budget, especially in the early years. That $5,200 monthly plan, turns out you're closer to $6,500 when you track it honestly. And that's before anything breaks, anyone gets sick, or life decides to get creative. Think about it logically. If you're spending $7,000 a month while working and you plan to spend $5,200 in retirement, where exactly is that $1,800 reduction coming from? Be specific. No more commuting maybe saves $200. No more work clothes, maybe $100. Congratulations, you found $300. Now explain the other $1,500 without using the phrase, we'll just be more careful. If you can't point to real line items that disappear, your retirement budget isn't a plan, it's a hope with a spreadsheet attached. Sign 2. You've never managed your own investments, taxes, or insurance without employer support systems. This is the corporate dependency trap, and it catches a shocking number of people. Think about everything your employer handles that you'll suddenly need to manage yourself. 401k contributions happen automatically. Health insurance is chosen from 3 pre-vetted options during open enrollment. Life insurance is provided. Someone from HR helps with benefits questions. Most tax documentation is automatic through payroll. Here's what happens in retirement. You're suddenly the CFO of your own financial life, and many people have never done this independently. You need to understand and manage rebalancing your investment portfolio, which means knowing what asset allocation means and when to adjust it, navigating Medicare Parts A, B, C, and D, plus deciding on supplemental coverage from dozens of options, handling your own taxes, including understanding required minimum distributions that start at age 73, managing estate planning documents, dealing with insurance claims without an HR department to help. Let me give you a concrete example. Required minimum distributions are mandatory withdrawals from traditional retirement accounts starting at age 73. The IRS requires you to calculate the correct amount based on your account balance and IRS life expectancy tables. Get it wrong, and the penalty is 25% of the amount you should have withdrawn, but you didn't. If you should have withdrawn $20,000, but you forgot or miscalculated, that's a $5,000 penalty. Or consider Medicare. You have to choose between original Medicare with separate Part D drug coverage and a Medigap supplement, or Medicare Advantage plans that bundle everything. The cost difference between making a good choice and a poor choice can easily be $3,000 to $5,000 per year, and if you miss your enrollment window, you can face permanent penalties on your premiums. Many people have spent their entire careers relying on employer systems and have never developed these skills independently. When retirement hits, they're overwhelmed. The test, in the 2 years before you retire, take over complete management of your finances. If you use target date funds in your 401k, switch to managing your own allocation. Do your own taxes instead of having someone else handle them. Research and understand your health insurance options in detail, not just picking the default. If you find this overwhelming, frustrating, or you realize you don't understand basic concepts, you have two options. Delay retirement until you're competent in these areas, or build into your retirement budget several $1,000s annually for professional financial management, tax preparation, and insurance consultation. A financial advisor typically charges around 1% of assets under management annually. On a $680,000 portfolio, that's $6,800 per year. Tax preparation for retirees with multiple income sources and RMDs can run $500 to $2,000 annually depending on the complexity. If you need these services and haven't budgeted for them, there's another hole in your plan. Nobody tells you this, but retirement requires administrative competence. If you don't have it, you'll either pay for it or make expensive mistakes. Sign 3. You haven't stress-tested your marriage or primary relationships for 24/7 proximity. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Divorce rates for couples over 50 have increased significantly over the past few decades, and retirement transitions are a known stress point for long-term relationships. The reason often isn't infidelity or major betrayals, it's proximity and loss of independent identity. When you're working, you and your spouse might spend quality time together 4 to 5 hours per day on weekdays, more on weekends. You have separate social circles from work. You have different daily routines. You have conversation topics based on separate experiences. In retirement, you're together constantly, all day, every day. For some couples, this is wonderful. For others, it reveals incompatibilities that were manageable when you had built-in separation. One person wants adventure and travel. The other wants routine and staying home. One is social and wants constant activity. The other is introverted and values quiet time. One wants to pursue expensive hobbies. The other wants to be frugal. These differences coexist when you're apart 50 hours per week. They can become major conflicts when you're together all the time. The financial impact of gray divorce is severe. When couples divorce after decades of marriage, they're splitting assets that were meant to fund one household into two separate households. Instead of one mortgage or rent payment, now there are two. Instead of shared utilities, transportation, and living expenses, everything doubles. This can easily cut retirement resources in half while increasing total expenses by 50% or more. Here's the test. Take a 2-week vacation where you're together 24/7 with no other family or friends. Not a busy vacation with packed schedules, but a relatively unstructured one where you have to navigate free time together. Can you do it without significant conflict? Do you run out of things to talk about? Does one of you need frequent breaks from the other? Additionally, have explicit conversations before retiring about how you'll divide household responsibilities when both of you are home full-time. Individual space and alone time expectations, social activity balance between together time and separate interests, financial decision-making in retirement, and what you'll each do if the other develops serious hobbies or interests you don't share. These conversations feel awkward, but they're necessary. If you've been married 35 years and never explicitly discussed how you'll structure your days when you're both home all the time, you're assuming you're on the same page. Many couples discover they're not. If you haven't done this work, and especially if there are already relationship tensions you're ignoring, retirement can amplify problems. Sign 4. Your family and social circle don't know you're planning to retire and you haven't set financial boundaries. This is the boundary problem, and it quietly derails more retirement plans than people realize. Here's what happens. You retire, word gets out that you're comfortable with money, and suddenly everyone in your orbit treats you differently. Adult children who were managing fine suddenly have emergencies that require financial help. Friends expect you to always be available since you're retired and have nothing else to do. Many retirees provide ongoing financial support to adult children. This might be helping with rent, car payments, student loans, or grandchildren's expenses. The problem is that most retirement calculators assume zero ongoing financial support to family members.
If you're planning to withdraw $35,000 annually from savings, but you're actually giving $8,000 to your struggling daughter and $6,000 helping your aging parents, you're actually withdrawing $49,000. That's a 40% increase in your withdrawal rate, and it will absolutely affect how long your money lasts. Here's what makes this insidious. The requests often come gradually and are framed as temporary emergencies, just until I get back on my feet. But temporary has a way of becoming permanent when there's no clear exit strategy. Beyond money, there's the time boundary issue. Many retirees end up providing significant unpaid childcare for grandchildren. While some people genuinely enjoy this, it often happens not entirely by choice, but by family pressure or guilt. You're retired, you have time, can you watch the kids Tuesday and Thursday? Becomes every Tuesday and Thursday for years, whether that's actually how you wanted to spend your retirement or not. The problem is that most people haven't had the uncomfortable conversations about boundaries before they retire, so they end up defaulting to yes out of guilt, obligation, or lack of practice saying no. Here's the test, and it requires action before you retire. First, have an explicit conversation with adult children about your retirement finances. Be clear and honest. We have saved enough for our retirement, but we do not have extra funds for ongoing financial support. If there's a genuine one-time emergency, we can discuss it, but we cannot be a regular income source. This conversation feels harsh. It feels like you're being a bad parent, but clarity is kindness. It's better to have this conversation before you retire than to say yes to requests for 5 years and then suddenly have to say no when you realize your savings won't last. Second, establish your availability boundaries with family and friends before you retire. Be specific about what you're willing to commit to. I'm excited to have more time, but I'm also building a routine that includes my own interests. I'm available for babysitting twice per month, scheduled in advance, is clearer and healthier than being on call constantly. Third, practice saying no now. If you can't decline requests for your time and money while you're still working, you won't magically develop that skill in retirement. Start small. Practice setting boundaries in lower stakes situations so you're comfortable with it when larger requests come. Sign 5. You're retiring from something instead of to something. This is the purpose vacuum, and it's different from the typical find hobbies advice. This is about specificity. There's a meaningful difference between vague intentions and concrete goals. I want to travel is a vague intention. I will take a 3-week trip to Japan in October, visit 5 specific cities, and learn basic conversational Japanese beforehand is a goal. I want to stay active is vague. I will complete a sprint triathlon by September, which requires training 4 days per week starting in March, is a goal. Why does this matter for retirement readiness? Because retirees without specific goals tend to drift. They sleep in because there's no reason to get up. They watch more TV than they intended because there's nothing specific scheduled. They spend money impulsively trying to fill empty time. They get bored, restless, and dissatisfied. This isn't just about happiness, though that matters. It's about how this affects your financial plan. When people are bored and lacking purpose, spending patterns change. There's more impulse buying, more entertainment spending because why not? We have nothing else to do. This spending creep wasn't in the budget. Additionally, lack of purpose can affect health. When people don't have reasons to stay active, engaged, and socially connected, physical and mental health can decline, and declining health means increased healthcare costs that weren't projected. Here's the test. Right now, write down 3 specific, measurable goals you want to accomplish in your first year of retirement. Not vague wishes, but concrete goals with success criteria. If you cannot identify 3 concrete goals right now, you're not retiring to something. You're just stopping work and hoping it works out. Sometimes it does, but often people discover that freedom from work without freedom to do specific things just feels like emptiness. Here's the bottom line. Retirement readiness isn't just about the numbers in your account. It's about whether you're ready for the complete life transition. These 5 signs focus on the practical issues that actually derail retirements, not just the obvious financial metrics everyone already knows. If you recognized yourself in even one of these, take it seriously. Address it before you retire, not after. Your retirement success depends on it. Thanks for watching. If this gave you a different perspective on retirement readiness, hit that like button and subscribe. Comment below and tell me which of these surprised you most. See you in the next one.